But point being, I'm thinking the LPGA is a better deal than the Korn Ferry Tour if you're a dude who's willing to make the change.
I'll stay out of that one.
Folks, we've got Jared Dorfler back from the Perfect Putt newsletter. Comes out once a week. I read it this week and I said, hey, Jared, please come back on Big Boy Pants Golf, YouTube's hottest golf channel. Jared, great to have you back.
What's up, Pants? It's a good day. I'm watching Tiger stripe it off the tee here. Although he did just hit one in a bush, but he looks good.
He looks uncomfortably jacked. I have some questions. I'm not so sure he's going to pass any pharmaceutical tests. He looks more top heavy than ever in a Mr. Olympia type way.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
All right, let's get into the topic at hand. You had an article that came out that says LPGA Tour sees a 76% increase in prize money over 2018. So it's from 2018 to 2023. More money's coming in 2024. And this is all happening while the PGA Tour is losing sponsors and searching for money.
Right. So the LPGA Tour has seen a 76% bump in their total prize pool since 2018. That does include the majors, and the majors have been a significant portion of that. If you look at the U.S. Women's Open and the Open Championship, they've significantly increased their purse sizes. And again, kind of like the PGA Tour, not necessarily affiliated. However, they are seeing LPGA Tour events that have been bumped significantly for next season.
I'm reading this, and this also stood out to me. 3 ladies in the past season made over $3 million. Lilia Vu, Amy Yang, Allison Corpuz. That's still a good haul on the PGA Tour, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good living, right? It's a great year. And only 4 had done that since 2000. So last year was a great year for some of the ladies on the LPGA Tour.
It's great for them because as McDonald's prices go up due to inflation, they can still afford the double cheeseburger.
Right. And I do think that is important to point out the inflation number from 18 to current, it's 22%. So people may argue that inflation has gone up significantly, that is a large bump on inflation. However, they're outpacing that by 55% on the net. So that's pretty solid.
But it's not just a couple outliers of these ladies. You're pointing out here, and I'll read your facts back to you. 28 golfers on the LPGA Tour made over $1 million in 2023. Wow.
Yeah, and that was a record year for them. They had 27 last year and 22. And then if you go down the list to basically 2014, it's around 15 a year. So they've essentially doubled the millionaires in earnings quite significantly in just a short period of time, which is really good to see.
14.5% of the LPGA golfers made over $1 million last year?
Yeah, of the LPGA Tour golfers that cash checks, absolutely.
That's an insane amount of millionaires. Well, maybe not counting obviously in the tax and stuff and their caddies fees, but I didn't realize it was that lucrative out there on the ladies tour. In my head, when I think of women's sports, I'm thinking of the NBA losing money by giving money to the WNBA, but that's not the case with the LPGA.
The LPGA Tour is the second best area to make money in women's sports, in my opinion, next to tennis. And they're creeping up on tennis here pretty quickly. And the WNBA, I mean, they're not really even in the same league as the LPGA Tour as far as earnings are concerned. The WNBA has a cap, of around 225 to 250,000 a year at max contract. If you look at, not to go too far off topic, but if you look at Caitlin Clark, who's plays college basketball at Iowa, she's going to make several $1 million this year in NIL money. And so the WNBA has got some work to do, but the LPGA Tour has done an excellent job of increasing their purse sizes.
In terms of increasing their purse sizes, you've got, as you point out, 14.5% of the LPGA making over $1 million or more. What is that? What are the numbers on the PGA Tour?
I wish I had that number off the top of my head. So I don't have that number off the top of my head. I believe the average on tour this year was about $1.2 million. We could look it up quick if you want, Pants.
You can look it up while I say something and throw out some terms like gender equality, economic parity. I don't even know if that's a phrase, economic parity. But you know what the LPGA doesn't do that the PGA Tour does do? They don't do that silly PIP money, player impact program. We got 100 million, 15 for you, 12 million for you, Tiger. Thanks for showing up. Never on any tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, look, the PIP has been around for a while. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It hasn't been around for that long, but yeah, I mean, it's to keep players around, right? It's a bonus, and I have an opinion about it, but I I don't think it's really, everyone's got an opinion about it. I don't think it's really worth spending too much time thinking about what I think about it, saying what I think about it. But yeah, that will go down though. They are going down to $50 million next year on that from 100. On the PGA Tour, 139 golfers made over $1 million last year. The average was 2.3 million. 139 divided into 241, about 60% looks like made over $1 million.
I mean, the women, you got it 14.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's catching up. You're making a good living as an LPGA golfer. At least you have a, 1 in 6, 1 in 7 chance of making over that $1 million mark. Not bad, I say. It's particularly interesting to me because it did seem maybe 18 months ago that the LPGA commissioner, Molly Marceau Samaan, was actually trying to get into touch with Greg Norman and maybe have Liv look into the ladies tour, but it seems like they're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the main difference from the LPGA Tour from the PGA Tours. The PGA Tour had to increase their purse sizes from a position of weakness because there was an outside threat. Now, I do believe, a lot of people may disagree with me, I do believe the PGA Tour was going to end up here at some point. They had to accelerate that due to Liv. The LPGA Tour doesn't necessarily have that, right? And so, although it could happen in the future, it is a real possibility that Liv could come in, or the Public Investment Fund, or another entity could come in on the ladies' side. They're proactively working with their sponsors to increase event purses. On the PGA Tour side, they were really banking on that media deal to fund some of that difference. LPGA Tour side, the sponsors seem to be working with them a little bit to increase the purse sizes.
In terms of increasing the purse sizes, let me throw this fact at you. 16 tournaments will see a purse of at least $3 million in 2024. 4 of the tournaments announced an increase to $3 million. So you got a big jump on all these purses. Mm-hmm. Where's this money coming from? Because we still don't have necessarily any real television numbers because they're going from the Golf Channel to the ESPN for the first year. It seems to me like you'd want to wait a year before you jumped in hook, line, and sinker.
So from what I understand and what I've read is that like those individual tournaments where we're seeing bumps from 2 to 3 million or 2.3 to 3 are coming from the title sponsor. So it's not necessarily coming from a media deal. Now, the LPGA Tour in 21 recognized $44 million on their media deal, which is about 26% of their revenue. Take that in comparison to the PGA Tour in 21. They had $634 million in their media deal, which represented 43% of their total revenue. So, the LPGA Tour has less to work with from a media revenue deal standpoint.
They've got less to work with, but I'm going to tell you this. The lowest tournament purse in 2024 is $1.5 million at the Hilton Grand Vacation Tournament of Champions. What's the lowest purse or the average purse on the Korn Ferry Tour?
That's something I don't know off the top of my head. I believe it's 1 million. I believe their minimum purses are 1 million on the Korn Ferry Tour.
I believe for the Korn Ferry Tour for the longest time, even the Korn Ferry Tour Championship was locked in for like 18, 20 years at a $1 million purse.
Yeah. Then they've increased their purse sizes on the Korn Ferry Tour this year. I need to look and see exactly what their purse sizes are, but yeah, it's pretty good. The finals have a $1.5 million purse on the Korn Ferry.
But point being, I'm thinking the LPGA is a better deal than the Korn Ferry Tour if you're a dude who's willing to make the change.
I'll stay out of that one.
Okay. The biggest jump, I think, is the U.S. Women's Open has gone up by 175%. What's driving this huge increase in the U.S. Women's Open?
Title sponsor, right? And Mike Wan came up. His goal is to to have the same purse on the women's side as the men's side. To do that for the women's side, he's got to have a title sponsor. And he came out and he said, "Look, we need a title sponsor." I went and found a title sponsor to help us out from the prize money standpoint. And so that's what he's done. For the longest time, the USGA didn't really want to go that route because they wanted to keep the name as traditional as they could. But Mike wants to make sure that the players get paid for what he thinks they're worth. And so that's the trade-off that he had to make to do that. But it's pretty significant. $11 million, it's over $2 million the first place for the Women's Open last year. And I suspect it will go up this year. We'll probably be around maybe 12 for the 24 Women's Open.
And that's interesting because you've got Mike Wan trying to catch up to what Jay Monahan did for the purses. They're at 25 million or so. But also remember that Jay Monahan now seems to be wanting to reach out to sponsors more and saying, hey, we're still short. We still have an issue. So you've got one guy being like, wait, we went too high, too fast. It's that Icarus story. You're flying too close to the sun. And now this other guy, Mike Wan, he wants to fly to the sun. Does it all come crashing down?
Last year was more than I can remember of sponsors not renewing their events with Honda, with AT&T. Yeah, I mean, it's more than ever. Look, I've heard things, but I haven't had independently confirmed anything on my end. I think it's probably, we could paint the picture saying that they're asking sponsors for more money. Probably that's a fair assessment that we could speculate that, and some sponsors are probably not willing to do that.
Because to me, the sponsors are going to want to see the value, and you can't see the value really until you see television figures, right? So it really was confusing when I saw this coming out, where first the LPGA is going to go to ESPN. So now you're going to get more of a sense of how it does out in the open market. But before they go out there, they're saying it's basically a ticker tape parade. We're just throwing money at them already.
Right. And the LPGA Tour, the ESPN Plus deal is streaming for just a little over a handful of events next year with featured groups. So it's not a full-blown ESPN deal. I wish it was, and maybe they'll get there in the future.
How do you see this playing out over the next 2 to 4 years? I know you have a crystal ball in that garage of yours.
The LPGA Tour has to get a major media deal that makes up more of their revenue so they can pay their players more. And look, they're certainly on the track. I think the ESPN Plus deal is a good start. Continue opening those conversations with partners. I honestly have no read or no idea on if somebody else comes to the table on the women's side. But what I'll say is it's certainly possible. I mean, like 5 years ago, you would say, no way, it's not possible. But it certainly is possible at this point. Now, the Ladies European Tour is significantly different than the LPGA Tour in the standpoint of earnings. It's markedly different. So I don't know. There's room for probably disruption there. On the men's side, your guess is as good as mine.
Well, in terms of the how much on average are these women making? Because probably in my head, I'm thinking that that's the standard salary for women overall, just because for me, it always seemed like the women sides were struggling more.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the European Tour a little bit with the ladies that they compete in the majors as well, and so they see a lot of their earnings like it's very top heavy essentially. But if we just look at, now this is in euros, if we look at the 10th female on the LET, she made $300,000 or 300,000 euros last year, so significantly different.
It's 1/10 or maybe 1/8 of the ladies on the US tour. So, I mean, that's just rough math. I don't know what the euro to the dollar value is right now.
Yeah, it's just significantly different. I mean, there was only one. I mean, Celine made over $1 million, but she made that money. I believe she won a major or got second in a major. She won 2 majors last year.
You're basically having to have a year of all time to make a little bit of something for the sweet tooth.
Yeah, and I think the point is she won a major, right? So that skews her earnings up for the LET versus the LPGA. She won the Scottish Open, which won her 274,000 euros. It looks like. So, yeah.
To me, overall, it's just going to be an interesting scene because we just saw this with Liv, where you put out money up front and then people demand to see good ratings. Otherwise they say you're going to tank. And now we have the women's situation. All this money's getting injected in there, and we'll have to see if the ladies can live up to the hype.
So I think that they will, right? Because it's just a lower risk to go from 2.5 to 3 is $500,000. Like let's take Walmart for example, because they were the one. I mean, Walmart sponsored on the LPGA Tour forever in Northwestern Arkansas, right? They increased 30%. Like that's a rounding there for them. It's probably a really good event for their corporate employees and their employees in the area to get out and do something for the weekend. I'm sure they get spots in the pro-am. So I don't think it's really one of those things where if we look at on the tour side where some of those purses are going to 20, 25, and those sponsors are having to, increase $5-10 million. Like I don't know if it's really a 1-to-1 comparison.
Jared, as always, thanks for coming on Big Boy Pants Golf. Folks at home, get in the comment section and tell us what you think.